The International Federation, which brought amateur orchestras of the world, started 30 years ago from Japan. It was led by a man who united amateur orchestras of Japan together 50 years ago. He conveyed the following message to the world. Let's hope that the world friendship will grow from here and will be deepened like a symphony, overcoming barriers of nations and languages by music played by young people of the world. It was in 1991 when the history of international exchange started with the establishment of the federation by people from 9 different countries who gathered in Japan. The city of Tokyo was full of cherry blossoms, celebrating the birth of the new federation. The man was sincerely dreaming that the earth would be like a symphony by people who gathered to resonate and be connected musically around the world. Today, we will introduce you to the history of 30 years of international exchanges of amateur orchestras initiated by Japan. Led by Japan, the international exchange of amateur orchestras started 30 years ago in 1991. The first step of the exchange was started by youth players, teachers, and coaches of youth orchestras who gathered in Japan from 9 different countries. And the World Youth Orchestra Conference, known as WYOC, was officially established. We will share the purpose of the establishment that is concentrated in the excerpt from the WYOC inaugural message. We aim at promoting music practice in many countries and regions to promote the healthy development of youth. With this in mind, we intend to develop their sense of beauty, elegance, refinement, and forge their temper through orchestra practices. We understand that in this era of multiplicity, there are different bodies even in a country and among same ethnic groups. We are aware that international tensions psychologically affect today's youth, but we also hear the cry for a better humanistic and formative education for future generations. Now that the 20th century is ending and we are at the doorsteps of the 21st century, we need to intensify our efforts to widen our horizons and respectfully search to improve our network, cooperations, and respect for the education and formative processes for new generations. This will be achieved through new friendships and cultural activities that will open new prospects for all young people in the world. Joined by 30 more countries, WYOC continued its activities proactively for the next 6 years, exchanging music activities of youth in each country and holding international festivals. As noted, international exchange of amateur orchestras were led by Japan, but such action was an extension of its exchange activities within Japan. This was because Motoyasu Morishita, who advocated the international exchange and became the chairman of WYOC, was the man who established the federation and led the connections and exchanges within Japan prior to the international exchanges. Now we would like to rewind the film and look at the exchange activities that started in Japan. In order to share the joy of performing and enhancing the rooted activities in local areas, the Federation of Japan Amateur Orchestra, known as JAO, was established in 1972 as an organization to exchange. It started with 23 amateur orchestras of Japan and now increased to 135 orchestras today. As the main phrase of JAO says, spreading the fountain of music. JAO mainly develops 3 main activities with eyes on the lifelong learning society. At the National Amateur Orchestra Festival, which is held every year since its establishment, participants from all over Japan came together to organize a joint orchestra. Its purpose is not to compete in a competition, but to share the joy of performing with the fellow people. Japan Masters Orchestra Camp is for elderly people, summarizing its activities with the catchphrase, going through all movements of the orchestral life. With official support from the Toyota Motor Corporation, aiming for the youth of next generation, Toyota Youth Orchestra Camp, known as TYOC, is held every year since 1985, with its motto to bring back what you've learned to your own hometown. Its purpose is not just having lessons for improving performance skills, but to educate young people to become opinion leaders of the cultural activities in their local regions in the future. From 1991, with the slogan of expanding the music circle to the world, they summoned participants from the world to join, creating the World Network. Teachers and coaches who came to Japan with the young musicians who participated in the international exchange of TYOC then established the World Youth Orchestra Conference, known as WYOC. The aim for international exchange of TYOC are declared as follows. We shall put our focus not on talented young musicians, but on ordinary children who will become members of the general public and at the same time will become cultural denominators in their countries in the future. We have interviewed Mr. Oreb Johnson, the Norwegian vice chairman of WYOC at the time, regarding what the WYOC was aiming for.
Dear music friends, members and supporters of World Federation of Amateur Orchestras, it's a great honor and pleasure to send you all this message, it being 30 years since I first time went to Japan and became a founder member and first vice chairperson of the regional organization World Federation of Youth Orchestras, that some years later became the World Federation of Amateur Orchestras. I was impressed and thrilled with the ideas of Mr. Morishita and his colleagues of founding an international music organization for amateur orchestras. During all these years, it has been a great pleasure to experience its growth and expanding in order to bring musicians of all ages together. I have met a number of dedicated musicians and leaders from many countries, and after being retired, I'm still in contact with some of them. I'm sorry that some of the original board have passed away, and I particularly want to mention our first chairperson, Mr. Morishita, who was a great visionary and inspiration to us all. I'm very happy that the younger generation of leaders and musicians has continued to work we started 30 years ago, and I wish them all success and happiness in the future. Music is a great way to establish friendships and mutual understanding across continents and borders. Thanks to you all. Good luck.
The international exchange will make its advancement, aiming for exchanges not only for youth orchestras, but among all amateur orchestras of the world. The World Federation of Amateur Orchestras, known as WFAO, was established in a historical city, Kanazawa, Japan, in 1998, with its mission to stand as an open federation beyond areas and nationalities. With its purpose to provide a platform to create friendships, WFAO is for people who love music to come together to enhance each other through the worldwide exchange of people and information among amateur orchestras of the world. Motoyasu Morishita, who became the chairman of WFAO, stated its existence value as follows. Nature and sensitivities may differ among nationalities and ethnicities. However, to pursue the international exchange with the common term of the orchestra is like having a reference and being aware of the level of our music activities and directions. Large and small international conferences, centered with WFAO conference, have been held not only in Japan but also around the world, and various discussions have been held for the development of amateur orchestra activities, including exchange of information. From its start of international exchange activities in 1991, International Amateur Orchestra Festival was held in different cities of Japan. 15 countries participated in the World Youth Orchestra Festival, which was held in Nagoya, Japan in 1993. 17 countries participated in the Second World Youth Orchestra Festival, International Amateur Orchestra Festival in 1996. 6 countries from Asia participated in JAO Festival in Okinawa and the International Conference for Friends in Asia, held in 2000. International Amateur Orchestra Festival was held in Nagoya, Japan, and 14 countries participated in 2001. JAO Aichi Expo Memorial Concert in Nagoya was held in 2005, and 12 countries participated. 9 countries participated in the first Asian Amateur Orchestra Festival in Fukuoka, which was held in 2011. We invited Ms. Zuhara Sultan, who had established the National Youth Orchestra of Iraq in 2008, at the very young age of 17 years old. In a divided society due to ethnic and religious backgrounds after the Iraq War, in order to bring young people of Iraq together, she wrote many letters seeking for funding and looking for orchestra members through internet. The World Amateur Orchestra Festival in Shizuoka was held in 2012 in Japan. 100 people participated from 17 countries. Over 500 people from young age to elderly people of the orchestra and chorus joined the large-scale festival, adding up to 600 participants in total. Very moving performances were given by 3 joint orchestras. In addition, we held the World Youth Orchestra Forum with its theme, Young People's Dream for a Beautiful Future, a World Symphony. There were speeches from young representatives, and activities of youth orchestra in Iraq and Venezuela were introduced. Also, the joint declaration was signed in 4 languages. We invited Ginny Dinshall, the founder of the Bombay Chamber Orchestra, which had just celebrated the 50th anniversary that year. Sharon Palkivara, who came to Japan with her, talked during the forum as follows.
Our city, Mumbai, does not have a school of music. Those cities in India which have music schools have not produced an Indian orchestra. Despite enormous financial problems, the VCO has pursued what it set out to do. It has given India a truly Indian orchestra. This has only been possible with the unceasing dedication of its members and the unwavering support and guidance of Miss Jeannie Dinshaw.
Japan has supported international festivals around the world. In 2010, the Century Symphonic Concert was held in Shanghai, China, motivated by a proposal from Japan to the Chinese delegation. There was no official amateur orchestra in the city of Shanghai back then. However, with valuable efforts of the conductor, Mr. Xiao Pan and Ms. Xiao Xiao. Shanghai City Symphony Orchestra was established in 2006. Players and choirs got together from the world and performed at the Century Symphony Concert. In 2013, the second Asian Amateur Orchestra Festival in Andong was held in South Korea with the full support of the Andong city. Traditional instruments of Korea were performed in concerts, and seminars with the theme Rare Recognition of Asian Values Through Art were also held. Japan supported the 2015 World Amateur Orchestra Festival in Milan, which was held during the World Expo. 90 performers from 4 continents and more than 15 countries performed Prelude of Puccini, 3 pieces of aria, and Sibelius Symphony No. 2 at the Concert Hall Conservatorio. There were small ensembles to enjoy chamber music, but no large-scale amateur orchestra in Milan back then. This festival led to the establishment of an association of Italian amateur musicians with valuable efforts of Mr. Tommaso Napoli, who traveled to Japan all by himself to attend the international festival in 2012. In 1995, Zhao signed the friendship agreement with the German Association of Amateur Orchestras. Since then, about 10 people from Germany join Zhao festivals in Japan every year, and about 10 people from Japan join workshops for orchestras in Germany. Japan invites about 10 amateur musicians from Asia to Zhao festivals from 2014, actively working on the enhancement of exchange activities in Asia. In addition, TYOC invites 10 Asian young musicians every year from 2009. From 2014, exchanges with Norwegian Youth Orchestra Association started, and since then, 2 Norwegian young musicians participate in TYOC events. One of our important activities is to support the joy to perform classical music and expand it throughout the world. With the cooperation of Peaceport, we donated string instruments and music textbooks to African Youth Ensemble in 2005. Our staff traveled to Nepal to donate string instruments, strings, and lozenge in 2014. We participated in the first concert by amateur orchestras since the country's establishment, with WFAO members. We interviewed Mr. Alex van Bevelen, who has been involved in 30 years of international exchanges, and asked him about what the WFAO was aiming for and about future dreams.
Dear music friends around the world, one of the turning points in the history of WFAO happened on the last day at the 2009 conference in Antwerp. The full assembly was completely surprised when Mr. Morishta asked Richard Chester to become the new chairman. About a year later, we received the sad news of the passing away of Mr. Morishta. Undoubtedly, this was the beginning of a new era. By the acceptance as member of the International Music Council in May 2017, WFAO is now officially recognized as the worldwide representative for amateur orchestras. Of course, this membership obliges us to continue further developing on what has been achieved the past 30 years. But no top without base. The most important thing remains the daily activities of the millions of amateur musicians. Worldwide, there are thousands and thousands of social and education projects based on making music together. To be able to share these experiences worldwide, regardless of origin, race or culture, and, if possible, by performing the masterpieces of the great composers, this is a gift from heaven. It's an honor and a privilege for all of us and for all generations to continue this work and to ensure the future. Thank you.
As we have looked through the history, Japan continued to initiate and address the international exchange activities of amateur orchestras to the world. This does not mean that Japan was trying to insist on something particular. However, with respect to other cultures, Japan continued to provide a platform where anyone can join and have a dialogue on even grounds. Japan values to foster deep friendships where you can feel the warmth of people. Now, international exchanges are inevitably restricted due to the coronavirus crisis. However, we are looking forward to the day when we can exchange heartfelt dialogue once again. We will continue to work on our activities, dreaming the day when the art will be like a symphony by people who gather to resonate and be connected musically around the world.